I'll be going through the answers quickly, so make sure your course book is open in front of you, and please stop and rewind the video as you need to. So, got your book open in front of you? Are your answers in capitals? Want to know why the answers are the answers? Then let's go. Question number 1 is a tricky question because the answer that we choose here, the type of word that we choose here, has got to modify the correct thing. What is it that we have to modify? We have to modify something way back at almost at the beginning of the text, and that is online articles. If we forget about that bit in the middle between online articles and the actual gap, we can make it a little bit easier for ourselves. Online articles are not as something as they might seem. In which case it's clear that we need an adjective of some kind. What's the adjective that we need? Factual. For question number 2, this gap is right before a plural noun, which tells us straight away that it's likely to be an adjective of some kind. And indeed, if we have a look at the wider context, what's before the gap, we can see that we definitely do need an adjective. So what choices do we have? Because we've got choices. We can either say editorial, which is absolutely fine, editorial powers, or we can say editing powers, which is absolutely fine as well. For question 3, we really have got to get a good understanding of the context of what this article or this particular sentence is all about. This sentence is telling you that readers have got to choose with the article that they're presented with whether it is an opinion piece, which is at the end of the sentence, an opinion piece suggesting rather that it might not be factually based, or that it might be subjective in some way, or in other words that perhaps we can't take it as facts. And then the other option, which is how we've got to fill in the gap, which somehow has got to suggest, given the contrast that we're presented with, that it's factual or based on facts or so on. But given the language structure that we've got here, which is straight after a form of the verb be, we need an adjective. What's the adjective that we need? What is objective? For question 4, just before the gap, we're presented with a reporting verb structure, is thought to be. After that, in this particular context, we need an adjective, thought to be reliable. For question number 5, just before the gap, we've got an adjective. And as we know, adjectives modify nouns. But what kind of noun do we need here? Well, looking at the context, we need a negative form of the noun, because the positive form of the noun simply doesn't fit the context. But do we need plural or do we need singular? The answer is it could be either one, depending on how you see that particular noun. We can use inaccuracies because we're talking about many inaccuracies, or we could talk about inaccuracy in a general sense, which is also communicated by the use of the singular noun. So here the answer could be inaccuracy or inaccuracies. For question number 6, a little bit easier this one. All we need here is an adjective to modify the noun that follows the gap. What's the adjective that we need? Controversial. For question 7, we've got to have a look back at the language pattern in the sentence before the gap. Claiming to have. Well, we can see that there's one thing that they've claimed to have, and after that we've got a conjunction, and then we've got our gap. So let's take the language lesson that we can see in the example, and we can see that it's a noun. So what's the noun that we need here? Expertise. For question 8, we've got another reporting verb structure. Believed to be entirely. Entirely is an adverb. We know that adverbs modify both adjectives and they modify verbs. Does a verb make sense in this gap? Of course it doesn't, but an adjective does. But which adjective is the correct adjective? Trusting definitely is not the correct adjective. Trustworthy is.